Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party, and my buddy Rhett is back here, and she really wants her nut this morning. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. You never can tell with her. So, anyways, we are trying to basically create or what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a table that has a list of all the Three.js objects. Um, and the reason I want the table there is to avoid um, what would you call it? To avoid memory leaks because um, 3J objects are pretty beefy, and I keep references to them because will like I think it all started because I needed to know what the um, aspect ratio of a 3JS object was, and so then in order to um, determine what that is, I kind of need to be able to ask 3JS, so I need references or other things. So I'm gonna need information from ThreeJS to show, and I can't because, um, or I can't, it's not a good idea to do that unless there's some way you can validate that you're actually deleting your references. Because as long as that reference exists in JavaScript memory, it's like using space. It doesn't just go away on its own. But in the meantime, I'm working on like getting like a table, and I do like Angular material tables. I find them to be pretty nice, but sort of the approach that you want to take to an Angular material table is very, very different than like a traditional table where you're going to iterate loop over an array and then just start creating table rows and table data cells and stuff like that. Really, 3J or Angular material goes a whole different direction, and it's really all like you just sort of describe stuff. It's probably like in some ways kind of closer to the concepts around CSS than it is around um, or XSLT or something like that than it is around the idea of HTML. You sort of predefine various things, and then it just puts it together for you, and you don't need to worry about how it does that. Which is it actually turns out to be pretty nice. All right, so do we want the object keys? I guess we do want the object keys. So basically, there's these three dictionaries. It's a whole bunch of them. And each one of them has a set of keys and a set of values. And the keys are the STIDs. And then the values are, so I guess that is right. How did I do this? So like, okay, so return table of records. Okay, so this we actually just create a table of records. And see, ours, we want the key, the count, and that. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect here because I think what this is going to give me is the um and see, this is where it'd be kind of nice to have named this a little bit better than just key. Um, because the key is actually the data type, right? So like the key is camera in this case. Key is geometry in this case, not the IDs. So I'm going to change this to 3 type. So that is the actual key is the type. I say all we have is the actual whole JSON of the dictionary, the entire dictionary, I believe is what I plan to do. So this is just completely wrong. Because what I'm saying is, hey, take a 3 dictionary and then transform that into table rows. But actually, the whole dictionary is the JSON. And then the count is the number of, so there's where I need the dictionary. This is weird. And it's only weird, like this wouldn't be, if I'd have, now that I'm thinking about this, if I'd have started from like sort of, okay, I'm building this, but the thing is that when I copied and pasted this transform, I sort of inadvertently copied some concepts along with it. But our transform is going to be an array of dictionary types, right? We want all of them. But then how will I know? Yeah, so the thing is this is for a single row. So I will basically, the table transform function before was returning an entire table, all the rows, but this is actually just giving me one row, and it's going to take us the 3 type, which is a string, and the 3 dictionary, which is one of the 3 dictionary types. So that's right. And so what we're trying to do is actually return a single table record, not a whole row. So now we have our 3 table record. That's what this is going to return. So this is wrong now. So we can set that up, and we can set it up as a constant. This is very confusing to a lot of people, but we're going to call that row and 3 table record. And that is equal to like that. And basically, we know that it's going to have a 3 type, and that's going to be a string. 3 type. So we're initializing the 3 type to this, and then we're initializing, I'm just looking down here, the count to 0. And the JSON to an empty string. And just to get the IDE to quit crying to us, we'll say return row. And then I don't think we even want that. We do want the JSON though. So basically const JSON is equal to, it's a string, and it's the ThreeJS dictionary. Is that right? Dot. We want to do JSON. I don't know. Dot stringify. And then this. So this is going to take the entire dictionary and turn it to a string. Who knows how this works out? Now what we can do is we can swap these 2 around, and we can just get rid of that, and JavaScript will just automatically know this. This is like didn't come out like in the original JavaScript, but it did come out later, and I don't like it. I really don't. I don't like this shortcut method of doing things, but like I want to be comfortable with it. So that is why I do it. That's the only reason I do it. All right, so now we want the JSON, right? Okay, I mean now we want the count, and we will know the count based on the keys in the Okay, so now we want that keys. So we just got rid of the keys const count. is a number. I like to do that just so it forces me to not screw things up. So I think it's like object dot keys, and then you give it this 3 dictionary, and then you give it, I believe that returns an array. So then it may not be though. Yeah, it does. It returns a full-blown array. Sometimes, so arrays are really heavy, right? Like they have a ton of data. Um, I mean, they have a ton of methods assigned to them, right? Like they can do a lot of things. So sometimes they don't want to make certain things as arrays because, it just saves a lot of memory if it's an array-like thing. Um, and I don't really understand what the idiosyncrasies of array-like is, but my guess is that means that it can be easily converted to an array. So there's probably some stuff. And then this is actually 3 type. This gets passed in. It seems like that is actually a row. So I don't think we want any of these. Okay, so I don't think there's anything wrong with our code, but um, it is definitely incomplete. And we won't even be able to. So basically, what we want to do is we want to, trying to think now. We're definitely going to need an effect. See, this is like the thing is like we need about a dozen things, I think most of these things could be worked on at once. But what we really want to do is actually create a data source, and I don't know exactly. I think now that we have this, we can actually create our data source. So let's go to our table up here, entity table component, because we want to stay as consistent as possible. So, okay, so we know we want to display columns, right? So anytime you do a copy and paste of code like this, you really do need to sort of slow down and just make sure, because this is a good sign that you're not being clean. Okay, so we know that 3 type is one of the things we want to show. We know that count is one of the things that we want to show, and we know that JSON is the third one. All right, so now let's go back here. Data source. This is the thing. And I've always had such I believe that when you have something like that, that's called a generics. And for some reason, every time I hear the word generics, I just sort of shut down. I just go like, I don't know. Incoming is, I guess, so there's a lot of information that you could take that, like, when you're done consuming it, you're more stupid than before you started. Um, and I guess historically, anytime I've heard someone say the word generics, um, at least early on, it was generally someone who didn't know what they were talking about. And then since they didn't know what they were talking about, they were just kind of, I don't know, they had like some delusions in their head and they were just sort of making stuff up and then passing it to me. And like their delusion actually makes things harder to understand. So I think it becomes a sort of a self-fulfilling, or sort of, what is the right word? Um, I don't know exactly what the best word is for it, but anyways, it's kind of like a lot of times when you make like a concept up so that you can understand something, you you end up, what am I trying to say here? You end up making fictions, and I guess they're all fictions. I don't know. It's all imaginary, right? This is all abstract, but you end up making these fictions that end up making it to where, like, as you get closer and you're looking for more details and you're trying to understand better, those fictions start to break down, and then you're worse off than you would have been had you started just organically. And that is kind of what happened when I did that copy transform. But anytime I've ever heard anyone say the word generics, it generally is they don't really know exactly what they're talking about. And and then they kind of tell me some stuff that I have to unwind before I can even start learning. I have to undo the damage they've done. So that's kind of how that works. But see, this one has an entity service and something that gets all the data. I don't know if it's going to be that simple, like just create a function, it just gets all the data for the data source. So I almost feel like, can I make this a empty? I think, you know, new at data source. I wonder, could I send it with nothing? Okay, so basically I think what it is just created an empty data source there. So when we populate this data source, we're going to want to populate it with, I think, all the data. So you give it, so I'm going to want to give it a full set of these three table records. And see, because we have this generic indicator, generic, I don't know, just descriptor, this generic descriptor that says what this is a mat data source and that the data itself is three table records. And then when I create this, it creates a new thing, and then I believe I'll be able to take the data source and just populate it. I could do like it. I'm going to need a constructor, so let's go ahead and do that now. And then we're going to want to be like data source dot page data or data and set it like that, probably. I'm guessing something along those lines, where my effect will go through and update the data. Now, so it's like a whole bunch of different data gets jammed together and thrown into here. So, anyway, so this is a good stopping spot. Let's see. Okay, use effects to populate data. Signals. I have one of these that's for signals, right? There we go. Probably effects. This would probably be a good one for effects. Actually, I like that one for effects. All right. Well, I am late for work. I got to go. Have a wonderful day. Bye.